In this episode, we're going to talk about an artist who recorded a number of hit singles, had a huge number of hit albums, gone on to worldwide acclaim, and then really confused his audience by abruptly walking away from the music industry. Now, many, many years later, happily, he has returned. Let's go ahead and drop the needle. The artist I'm talking about, his real name is Stephen Dimitri Giorgio, but of course we all know him as Cat Stevens. Now, he said he took the name Cat Stevens because he couldn't imagine anyone wanting to buy a Giorgio album, whereas everybody loved animals. His first single was released in 1966, and it's called I Love My Dog. Yeah, I Love My Dog by Cat Stevens. This was followed by his first album in 1967, Matthew and Son. It reached number 7 in the US, and besides the title track, there is I Love My Dog, Here Comes My Baby, which was a big hit for the Tremolos, I'm Gonna Get Me a Gun, and Hummingbird. After this album, he made a second album, but it was not a hit, and the pressures were getting to him. And he caught tuberculosis and spent many months in a hospital, where actually he wrote a number of songs that appeared on subsequent albums. In 1970, he releases Monobone Jacom, and this was at the time when people first started using the term singer-songwriter, and boy did he qualify for both. The album was only a modest success, but it did set the stage for his next breakthrough. The songs include Lady D'Arbanville, Pop Star, Trouble, and of course the title song. Later that year in 1970, he releases his breakthrough album, The Amazing Tea for the Tillerman. And to support it, he tours virtually non-stop. And he played the Troubadour in West LA, a club that I've talked about in previous episodes that I used to haunt a lot. Well, he played there many times, and I remember going to see him each time with such a joyous evening. The songs, the voice, the guitar playing, he just blew everybody away. Many great songs on this album. Where Do the Children Play? Hard-Headed Woman, Wild World, Longer Boats, On the Road to Find Out, and Father and Son, where he plays both parts of a father and his son having kind of an argument. This album was a smash and hit number 8 in the US. In 1971, he releases Teaser and the Firecat. This is another terrific album. It contains the hits Morning Has Broken, Moonshadow, Peace Train, and I also like If I Laugh and Bitter Blue. Teaser and the Firecat soars to number 2 in both the UK and the US, and it was right around this time that Cat Stevens appeared in a simulcast on KCET in Los Angeles, and the audio portion was carried by my radio station, KPPC FM. So you got stereo through your radio and visuals through your TV. And I talked about these simulcasts in a previous episode. The next year, Cat releases Catch Bull at 4. I Like Sitting, Angelcia, Can't Keep It In, Freezing, and O Caritas. In 1973, Cat releases Foreigner, an album unlike any others that he had done previously. He produced the album himself and has said he was heavily influenced by listening to black music. The first side has only one song on it, the 18-minute Foreigner Suite, which I played many times on my radio shows. I also like the songs The Hurt and 100 I Dream. Next up is Buddha and the Chocolate Box. Now, I always wondered where he got that title. So in doing research, I looked on Wikipedia, and he's quoted as saying that he was on an airplane which hit some turbulence, and he was thinking, gee, I might die. And he realized that he was holding a box of chocolates in one hand and a Buddha in the other. And he thought, wow, people will sure have an interesting time about this, looking between the material and the spiritual. Where was he really at? Well, that was always a side about Cat Stevens. He always seemed kind of more spiritual than anybody else in the music business around this time. The album is good, and it contains the hit Oh Very Young, but it's not actually one of my favorite Cat Stevens albums. His next album baffled me and virtually everybody who heard it. It's called Numbers. It has a very weird concept. Yeah, it's a concept album. The lyrics are dense, and there are no great songs on this record. It was not a hit, and his record label was furious, and they told him that his next record better have hits on it. So he goes in the studio and starts work on Is It So? And it contains his last top 40 hit for over 30 years. The song is Remember the Days of the Old School Yard. Another song on the album, I Never Wanted to Be a Star, references some of his earlier songs and gives us a clear indication of how disillusioned he is with the life he's leading. So this leads to a monumental decision for Cat Stevens. He converts to Islam and changes his name to Yusuf Islam and leaves the music business. However, as it turns out, he owes his record company one more album, so he makes Back to Earth. It's a lackluster album, and it doesn't really sell. I kind of think Cat's heart wasn't really in it. And it's his last album for almost 30 years. Now, like everyone, Yusuf was horrified by the attacks on September 11th, and he appeared in the TV show Concert for New York City, where he played the song Peace Train for the first time in over 20 years. By 2004, he was beginning to record secular music again, and actually was invited into the U.S. to meet with Dolly Parton. As he was flying into the U.S. Department of Homeland Security flagged him, and they diverted the plane and deported him back to London and put him on a no-fly list. Now, it took a few years to figure out what that was all about, but what it appears is that the name on the no-fly list was Yusuf Islam, but it is spelled different than Yusuf Islam, that Cat Stevens' name is. Anyway, 2 years later, he was allowed back in the country, no questions asked, all is forgiven. So in 2008, he wrote a song about the experience called Boots and Sand, which features not only Dolly Parton, but also Paul McCartney. Since returning to the music business, Yusuf Islam / Cat Stevens has recorded 5 albums. Another Cup in 2006, Road Singer in 2009, which contains Boots and Sand, Tell 'Em I'm Gone in 2014, The Laughing Apple in 2017, and Tea for the Tillerman 2 in 2020. Now this is an interesting album because he reimagines the songs from the original Tea for the Tillerman, and of course his voice is much more mature now. An interesting song, and I talked about it earlier, was Father and Son, where he played the part of the father and the son having kind of an argument in the song. Well, in the new version, he sings the father's part now in his present voice and uses the track from when he was in his 20s of the son answering. So in a way, he's singing with himself decades later. Kind of cool. So over the years, Cat Stevens has made an incredible amount of music. Then he stopped for a while, and now he's come back. And I'm glad to see that he's continuing to record. And it's fun to go back and listen to some of his earlier albums and be astonished by what a talented guy he is. Thanks for watching. Cat Stevens is one of those artists that certainly keeps me rocking. If you liked this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.